Hello and welcome to our Year with the Ears, our daily vlog where we relive our year living in the Walt Disney World resorts in 2019. Today is day 256.
We woke up this morning here in our 2-bedroom villa at Boardwalk, and my aunt got all of her stuff and headed down to Magical Express to wait for the bus. We went with her, said our goodbyes, and then headed back to the room. We got ready for the day and walked over to Hollywood Studios so that we could take a bus over to Grand Floridian because there is no transportation from resort to resort. However, you can get really creative with it. As long as you can get to a park, you pretty much have access to anything you need. We made it over to Grand Floridian for a very late breakfast. It's supposed to be breakfast, but honestly, it's basically brunch at this point. We're eating at 1900 Park Fair. We've never had breakfast here. We did have dinner a few weeks ago. Absolutely love the experience, so we're hoping breakfast is just as good. The rest of my family met us here at 1900 Park Fair. We got all checked in, got seated, and waited for our server to come to take our drinks. Part of the reason we're eating here is because this is kind of a running joke with my family. Years ago, the first trip we ever took to Disney World, we went to Crystal Palace. The whole reason we went there was because my youngest brother loved Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And as soon as he saw them, when they came around to take pictures, he screamed and cried and ran away, would not go near them. So my other brother and I got to take pictures with these characters that we did not care about. So this is kind of a runner-up because we don't want to use a park ticket just to eat at Crystal Palace. So we decided to eat here at 1900 Park Fair to get a new experience, but also get pictures with those characters that my brother didn't take pictures with all those years ago. And of course, the first character that came around was Winnie the Pooh, which made that even more amazing for all of us. We all took individual pictures with Winnie the Pooh and talked to him for a few minutes, told him how much we love him now, how much my brother was afraid of him years ago, took lots of pictures with him, and then waited until the other characters came around. And the next one that did come around was Tigger, so my brother made sure to take a picture with him, and then all of us that wanted to also took pictures with him, talked to him, told him how much my brother used to love him and watch all his movies, and used to sing his songs, and then was afraid of him, but now he's not, so it's okay. And then it was time to eat because we are very hungry. We didn't have breakfast because we were waiting to come here. So we headed up to see what all they have.
Just like when we came for dinner, they have a massive buffet here at 1900 Park Fair. There are so many different things you can choose from. Of course, for breakfast, they have things like a create your own omelet where you can choose all your toppings and they'll make it right there for you. They had tons and tons of different types of pastries all over the place. They had a yogurt station with lots of toppings and of course fruit and all the healthy stuff that you might want. And then they had two of our favorite things. They had corned beef hash, which I absolutely love, and they had eggs benedict, which Alyssa really loves. They had smoked salmon and a whole area where you could build your own breakfast burrito that was pretty cool. They had French toast and of course Mickey waffles out there, and then they had red velvet pancakes, and that was an interesting experience that Alyssa couldn't take part in because of the red food coloring.
Didn't want to anyway.
But it was like with maple syrup instead of cream cheese frosting. It was just very odd, and I think some people may love them, but I just didn't get the appeal. I'd rather have a red velvet cupcake when it's not breakfast time than have red velvet pancakes. But anyway, they did have some other good stuff like biscuits and gravy. They had ham and bacon. And one of my favorite things from 1900 Park Fair was there for breakfast too, the strawberry soup that is just so good. So we all filled up our plates and took them back to the table, hoping we had enough food to sit for a little while we wait for the other characters to come around.
And it didn't take very long for them to come around. First up was Alice. She comes around, and so we took lots of pictures with her. And then we got to see Mad Hatter, who loved Robert's shirt, and so they had a nice whole conversation about hats and how much they love hats. And of course, the rest of us also took pictures with him once they were done having their entire conversation. And last but definitely not least, the person I have been waiting to see, Mary Poppins herself came around. So you get 5 characters here for the breakfast and a ton of different food options. I felt like we had a nice variety of food that all of us could enjoy, and we got to see a really random selection of characters, pretty much one for everyone who was here at the table.
Most everyone in the family then left the restaurant, leaving a couple of us behind to go ahead and pay the bill using the magic bands and the dining plan credits and all that. But they had to go because we had a friend who lives locally who offered to take them to the outlet over at Vineland Mall so they could go to Character Warehouse and see if they could get some discounted Disney merch. So 6 of them went and piled into her minivan and headed over to the outlet. When we were done paying, the rest of us hopped on a monorail monorail over to Magic Kingdom, where we took a bus back over to Boardwalk, and we figured we could go back to the room. I'm almost done with that project I was working on, so I'm going to try and put the finishing touches on that. And then when they come back from the outlet, we'll see if we want to do some other activities at the resort or something like that.
We got over to the mall and found something we had not seen before. The store was temporarily closed, which seemed really odd. So I asked a cast member about it and they said, oh, well, we've been hitting capacity, so we have to limit the number of people inside. Oh, okay, about how long will that be? Well, that depends. So you have to get in this line that's kind of a short line, but when we cut off the line, you can't get behind anyone else in the line, and then we let those people through, and then they get in the store, and as it clears out, then we form the line again. But you can't form a line outside the line because that's a safety violation. And I was like, what is happening right now? I have never experienced this before. Every time we've ever gone to Character Warehouse, we've been able to just walk in, shop a little bit, and then leave. This was crazy. There were people everywhere, but you're not allowed to like hang around the area. So people were like randomly looking like they're not hanging around. It was super weird. We ended up being here for about an hour and a half and never did make it in that line to get in the store to then shop around. We decided we didn't want to spend all day here because that's just not fun. It's not a park day, but we still plan to spend time at the resort. So we all took an Uber back to Boardwalk and decided to go to Community Hall and just spend some time there, just hanging out, chilling. They have coloring pages we can do. Honestly, we were there to watch the movie and the air conditioning because that was a lot of fun. My brothers were playing video games that they have, and Robert came down to play pinball.
We had a lot of fun hanging out in Community Hall, just doing all the free stuff they have to do. We didn't even do any paid activities or anything like that. And several of us actually wore our swim stuff down here because after we finished in Community Hall, we wanted to swim a little bit. So we went swimming in the little pool right there by Community Hall, not the creepy clown pool. We don't need to go over there. And we also used the hot tub. And after a while, we kind of worked up an appetite. So we headed back up to our 2-bedroom villa, and we actually had leftovers in there from Pizzafari yesterday because they did let us take it home since we didn't order a bunch of extra food. We only got the first round of the all-you-can-eat meal. So we heated up pizza and pasta for everyone to eat. Just had fun hanging out in the room. A few people went down to the gift shop to see if they could find anything good, but they were really missing the fact that they didn't get the discounted stuff at Character Warehouse, so they didn't buy anything. And after we hung out in the room for a while, they all decided to head back over to their resort, and we had to go get a bus because we need to go over to Magic Kingdom for yet another Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party.
We left the resort around 10 o'clock and got there about 10:15 and waited at the front of the park for the fireworks to start. And as soon as they did, we got in line for the PhotoPass photographer and got some really awesome pictures with the fireworks going off behind us. It was just so awesome. We actually had another PhotoPass photographer tell us to do this at one of the other parties we had never thought about. We're like, oh, that's actually really smart. We should do that. So because we got here late enough tonight, we're like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna hang out until we get these photos. We took those pictures and then literally just had to get out of the way because basically a wall of people started heading towards us as soon as the fireworks were over. It was crazy. But this is the very reason we like coming later in the night anyway, because basically everyone leaves the park after the fireworks. We don't know why, but they all do, which means all the lines are shorter. The lines for candy, the lines for characters, and the lines for rides. And of course, the one thing we wanted to do did actually have a long line tonight. We were going to see the Queen of Hearts and Tweedledee and Tweedledum because, well, we're kind of dressed up for that. And so we waited in the line because we're not going to dress up as this again. We want to do this one time. We finally made it up to the front of the line and got to see the Queen of Hearts and Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I took some pictures just with the Queen of Hearts because I kind of dressed as her. Of course, she loved my outfit. I can't imagine why. And I even had a crown, which she really liked as well. And this little side note, I was really proud of this crown because I didn't have the paint chips that I had earlier in the year that I used to make a crown. So I had to get really creative. I put the whole outfit together and it just wasn't complete without a crown. It needed one, but I can't just order one from Amazon for 2 hours later and I don't have anywhere to buy one. So I realized that the sponges that come in all the villas, you know, that you clean dishes with, I realized that they're yellow. So I cut up a sponge and bobby pinned it in my hair. I was really proud of the creativity behind this because I didn't have a lot to work with, but I still managed to figure it out. Even the Queen was impressed, so I mean, that has to say something, right? We took pictures with Tweedledee and Tweedledum as well as all of them together with us, and then we decided that we really needed to ride Haunted Mansion because today is Friday the 13th, and it's also a full moon, so that just seemed really appropriate today.
I mean, how can you go to a Halloween party on Friday the 13th with a full moon and not ride Haunted Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess a lot of people did because they all just left after the fireworks. But maybe they were afraid of sticking around on this spooky date. I don't know. So we went over to Haunted Mansion. Yeah, there was no line whatsoever. The only thing that we saw with a line on the way to Haunted Mansion was Peter Pan's Flight, and it was only 20 minutes, which is lower than it almost ever is. So that was kind of impressive to see that low wait time as well. Inside the queue for Haunted Mansion, we go through the graveyard, and they actually lit it up and had like some fog coming in. It was really creepy looking because they had all these different lights and the fog and stuff, and it was kind of cool. So we took some pictures there and then headed in to ride Haunted Mansion, which is really not all that scary, but for Friday the 13th, you kind of have to. And from there, we just walked around the park, kind of looking to see if there's anything going on, and it's just totally empty. Like Frontierland, there's hardly anyone there. And as we crossed over into Adventureland, there was actually a cast member outside of the Enchanted Tiki Room telling everyone walking by, anybody she could find, that, hey, Moana's in here. She has no wait whatsoever. And we're like, wow, Moana must be really bored, so we should go see her. We've already seen her before, but why not?
So we literally went inside just to keep Moana company, and we're actually there for a really long time just talking to her. She thought my outfit was a little weird, so she was asking about that. She was trying to understand Robert's shirt. We just had this whole conversation. The photographer took tons of pictures, and we just kept talking to her because nobody was in here in line for Moana, which is crazy because literally a month ago she would have a huge line and people would wait an hour just to see her.
When we were done with Moana, we did stop at a couple candy locations to get a little bit on the way out, and of course got some allergy-friendly candy for Alyssa as well. And then we headed out of the park and took a bus back over to Boardwalk, and that was the end of our day today. So we'll see you tomorrow
For our Year with the Ears.